This is a question for Helga. Recently, Mr. LaRouche has spoken about how, for example, this event today, about how such an event can resonate with the tiny minority today who are thinking. And so in the context of those remarks, I was hoping that you could speak on what the nature of leadership is in this crisis in particular, but in crisis generally. That's what I got.
Well, I'm quite sure that we are standing in front of unbelievable developments. I mean, just because the crisis since 5.5 years, since July 2007, has been going up and down, and then you had the 2008 thing, then for a short period of time people were quite freaked out. Everybody was talking about New Bretton Woods all of a sudden, because they were really scared. And then the bailout machine started to go, and now you have this more or less getting used to the crisis. But this is not going to be, because the situation is so tense that either you have an uncontrolled explosion, and we are talking to bankers, I like to tell this story because it is really, it gives you a sense. We have a very good contact who's an economic professor, who's a very, very distinguished elderly gentleman, you would never think that he has any radical thoughts whatsoever. But he happens to really know this economic system. And when I met him actually the day when the ESM decision went through, the European Stability Mechanism. And this gentleman, is about 75 or so, he had a freak out, a yelling attack, where he said, these people, they should be executed, they should stand in the line for 1 hour because they are shot. And I said, wow. No, but then he basically, he's not, we are against the death penalty and, all of this. But he had such a vivid imagination of what will be the consequence on the people if this thing comes down. So he had this extreme statement of standrechtliche Erschießung, but standing there for 1 hour to wait. And that is really what is coming, So I think what we need to do with this 5% is to really very, very quickly, reach out. And you may have wondered why I wanted so many outside speakers at this conference, which was a little bit unbalanced. We should have had a little bit more our people speaking, but it doesn't matter, because I think what we need to do right now is to have an outreach like never before. Just forget it in terms of who you are talking to. I think we need to have much more deliberation on, how we use this situation. For example, if you look at the Middle East, the Middle East is such a powder keg, and you have so many people who are genuinely sorry. First aid. That takes too long, thank you. No, but you have so many people who are genuinely, genuine people. Like in Europe, we have gotten a whole bunch of organizations around us who are from the Syrian opposition, who are anti-Assad, but are not for the terrorists. In the same way, you have so many groupings right now which are totally, they have nobody to go. And I think that the one thought which should come out of this conference is to really upgrade our conscious outreach to talk to people, that they have to get into the fight. I think we should take the appeal by Walter Jones as a starting point, because this is a perfect thing. We had a Republican congressman asking, you had a conference of I don't know how many people unilaterally voting by acclamation for it. So let's take that as a message and go out everywhere. And then combine it with the message of this conference that the best political fight will not succeed if you don't combine it with beauty. And then let's take the Magnificat and the presentations this evening, and say these things have to go together, because if you have a democratic rearrangement of the same people, they will do the same bad things. You have to uplift people, and you have to say you have to fight for Glass-Steagall, but you have to combine it with a cultural leap to some other more beautiful ideas. And this is possible. Look, for example, I don't know, some of you were not born yet, but when the wall came down in Germany, this was an unbelievable period. You had over Christmas, you had 2 times the Ninth Symphony performed in the TV. And normally when you have a repetition, people freak out. They don't want to see the same movie 2 times in a row. But nobody, one was from Mansour, the conductor from Leipzig and Dresden, and the other one was from even Bernstein, but so what? And this was a period, where people were feeling so elevated. They wanted, it's what Lynn always quotes Shelley, that is a period when people are open for profound ideas because they realize that the foundations on which they have been standing are shaking, that nothing is functioning anymore, and then people are open for these ideas. And, if, that's my biggest criticism to Helmut Kohl, if he would have had an inkling what was going on, that the population in all of Europe was absolutely ready, they could have been elevated from a peaceful revolution into a renaissance. If Kohl at that point would have gone into TV and said, look, I talk to you, the peoples of Europe, I talk to the Ukrainians, to the Lithuanians, and please revive your most beautiful tradition. You had a renaissance exactly on the same level like the Italians. Make that alive. Let's have a diadem of nations where each nation is like a pearl in a beautiful arrangement. People would have responded, because when such things happen, people want to have beautiful ideas and they want to be elevated. And I'm saying to you that, we are going very shortly into a period where people will ask for fundamental conceptions. In 1945 in Germany, it was exactly like that. The war had ended. It was a complete, Germany was defeated. People were starving. The men were as prisoners of war. The women were rebuilding Germany from a rubble field with their hands. This was an unbelievable moment, And Furtwängler played concerts. Schlussnuss went into bombed-out barns, and people wanted to have this music. There was a revival of natural law because people said we have to have laws to make sure that something so horrible never ever happens again. The famous word "never again," "never again" war was in everybody's mind because it was such a horrible experience. So, unfortunately, this was then totally ruined because of Truman, and the occupying powers then immediately wiped out this debate of natural law and imposed Dewey and all kinds of other positivist law instead of natural law. They rehabilitated all kinds of Nazis like Sartre and Heidegger and whatnot. It was a real conscious effort to stamp out this elevated mood in the population. But I think that, in the United States right now, you have a situation where all these movements have failed. The Tea Party has failed, the Occupy movement has failed, And why? Because they had no ideas. And I think we have to have a solemn commitment to go out of this conference and really get into a completely different mode on Glass-Steagall, using the Walter Jones message to us and our acclamation, and get the whole country moving, state legislators, mayors, other elected officials, teachers, get everybody involved, because I don't know if Dr. Shelley is still here, but the answer to his problems is Glass-Steagall and a functioning economy, so that the medicine can be paid again. So there is not one grouping which is not affected by this present thing, and I think we should eliminate all previous assumptions of who we should talk to and who not, and really go out, make a complete revolution of beauty, and add to the science and to the economy, add this classical culture, because that is the most powerful. I mean, it makes people happy, and when people are happy, they are healthy. I mean, it's no miracle that you have this study which we were discussing, that there was a big fight if it was 55% or what, I don't care, but a very large percent of people are regarded to be psycho cases in the United States, and who knows where else. But even if it's only 20%, I mean, who cares? It's frightening, And the reality is, with classical music, people become mentally healthy. That's a fact. I mean, the Romantics, E.T.A. Hoffmann went into the insane asylums and studied cases, and then wrote his novels. And the psychoanalysis goes back to the early Romantics, consciously. R.E. Lang and all of these people consciously quote the Romantics as their model. And what is psychology today? They say, you have to learn to live with your neurosis. And your neighbors have to accept that you are a neurotic person. And then the conflict goes away because everybody agrees it's okay. And that is exactly the opposite of what Schiller said. Schiller said, you have to overcome your problem by reaching the level of the sublime. And that is, I think, extremely important. And, in a certain sense, I think everything is open now. We should really explode in all directions.